Alright guys, so as you can see we are here for a brand new season of AOR, here for season 15, and coming into this season as the reigning champion. The aim will be to take the championship again, and this is a 16 round season, so not quite as long as season 14, but obviously there's quite a lot of changes really for this season compared to last season. Obviously AOR's got its sponsorship from Hype Energy, and we've also got pretty much a brand new PS4 F1 grid compared to last season, because we got about, I think, drivers from about 7 esports teams signed up, but obviously that's not all in the top tier, but like over all tiers of PS4. And yeah, it's going to be a super competitive grid. It's not going to be quite to the same level as PC, but I expect it to be pretty tough. And obviously, as I said already, I'll be aiming to win once again, just like last season, try and get my second AOR championship, my fourth across all tiers I believe. And yeah, it's going to be a tough season. I will have to obviously focus on exams midway through, and exam preparation will come first over league racing as always. So yeah, it's going to be tough. In some rounds I'm going to probably struggle to get in any practice, to be honest, so we've got to make the most of the rounds that we can practice. And as you would have noticed, I am driving the Mercedes this season, which was my first choice of car, seeing as I was the champion. And yeah, Australia, the first round, not really a track I've got on too well with in the past, but it seemed like so far in the practice that I did, my pace was pretty good. I didn't really do too much practice because I was trying to do the esports event, which I haven't actually gotten to the top 10 yet, so I'll have to keep trying in that. But you would have seen my first lap put me on pole with a 21.4, which is quite a bit off what I was doing in practice, but I don't know how well it comes across on here, but it was really quite frame ratey once again. But you would have seen after my fastest lap I went for another lap where I was up on the delta, but I actually made a mistake, and you can see on my second run I've once again made a mistake and I've invalidated my time, so we're going to have to back off here before I go for another lap. And you can see we're currently on second now, so yeah, we're gradually dropping down the order, so we've got to put in a good time here in our last attempt. You can see I'm now having to speed up because I've got my teammate Curly behind on a flying lap, and we've now got a Force India who's about a second and a half in front of us here, so we're going to have to go for it on this lap with dirty air, which is going to be affecting us with the car in front, so it's going to be really tough to put in a good time here. So into turn one, taking that pretty cautiously because it's really easy to cut that corner, and also if you go ever so slightly off the track you get a warning, so yeah, we don't want to get another invalidated lap, else we're going to be 7th at best, as you can see. So we're about a 10th up on our previous best time, which is decent, but gradually we're going to close on the car in front, so we've really got to try and minimise the effect of the dirty air, which is going to be really tough. And you can see now I'm only about 600ths up on my time, so the pressure is on here to put in a good time, else we're going to be on the third row at best. And you can see I haven't taken that corner too well either. I hit the curve a bit too hard, and now we're 400ths up only here. We've got my teammate Curly slowly closing in on us as well, so we've got to make the most of the last sector. We've got to have one of the best last sectors I've ever done around this track, really, to make up for what's happened so far this lap. And we're only 200ths up, so this is getting to a bit of a desperate situation here as more and more cars are retiring around us, so that's really starting to put us off as well. But you can see we're so far in this final sector it's been pretty decent, and now we're 2/10ths up, so I was thinking at this stage this is probably going to put me about 4th on the grid, but it turned out it was pretty close between 2nd and 8th. And you can see now as I cross the line I go into P2, which is, yeah, I've rescued that situation pretty well there. That could have been a whole lot worse, and we are now on the front row with a great chance of victory. Still quite a bit off the times I was doing in practice, but P2 doesn't really matter, we're in the fight for the win. So 5 red lights, and it's lights out and away we go here for AOR Season 15, round number 1 here for the Australian Grand Prix. And we've got a decent launch off the line, we're going side by side with the McLaren, and breaking into turn 1 he manages to hold it around the outside. I think it's the Zocolet HD, I think that's how you pronounce that gamer tag there. But we're in the slipstream here heading towards turn number 3. We're going to try it around the outside here, braking just after the 100-metre board, but that's never really going to work around there, so we're going to have to settle for P2 here in this early stage of the race. So we're in a comfortable position here to still fight for the win. It's going to be an easy one stop. You can either go ultra soft super soft or ultra soft soft, and we're going to go ultra soft soft, pitting on lap 8 here. And I don't know what the guy in front strategy is going to be. I know what my teammate Curly's strategy is going to be, so hopefully we can take the fight to the guy in front. I'd never raced him before, so I didn't know what sort of pace he had or anything like that, but I did practice with Curly and a couple of others like Dos, and I think my pace looked really good compared to theirs, so hopefully, yeah, we can start the season off with a win. And if we can do that, that would just be so much better than last season, considering I didn't even score points here last season. So we are driving so much better than this time a season ago, and you can see that already through the first lap how I'm able to keep up with the McLaren in front. Obviously you do have the effect of the dirty air, and it's quite difficult to overtake around here, as you would have seen there. Through the final corner we get quite a bit of understeer, as he already goes a bit defensive, which isn't really needed, to be honest, because I'm not even close enough to make a move into turn number 1. But on the start of lap 2 we're already starting to get away from Curly behind, who really did struggle in the first few laps of this race, as we have a slight look to the inside there on Zocklet in front, but not able to put him off so far, as he sort of loses the car a bit, then touches the grass as well heading into turn number 4. But we're sticking with him, and hopefully we can set up a move, but as always around here it's really difficult, as you would have seen in real life F1 as well. But throughout my practice I was setting consistent 24 threes on lap 2, around 24 threes to 24 zeros. That was sort of the pace I was doing, but obviously in the dirty air you're going to be well off that. And yeah, if we can get through, I feel we have the pace to like pull away from the car in front, which will be definitely a great start to the season. You see he's actually made a mistake there in front, and I had no idea what happened to him there, but I think looking back at it now, I think he just lost the rear and then tried to correct it and just spun off, and then he also got front wing damage, and that's now gifted us the lead over Curly, and we now have a pretty comfortable lead of about a second and a half already here on lap 2, so we're in prime position to take the win here today. And I'm commentating this about an hour after the race finished, and you can see now crossing the line for lap 3 setting a 24.9, which is not great race pace, but it doesn't matter, we're in the lead at the moment. As Deagle Killer, I think that's how you say that gamer tag, put in a slightly better time than us, but you can see heading towards the end of lap 3 the Ultra Soft tyres are still handling very well, and we've absolutely left Curly behind now, and he's got Synthetic behind him in P3 as we set a 24.7, which is definitely decent pace. Synthetic obviously in P3, my closest rival last year in the championship, so he's always going to be in the fight this season. You can't count him out because he will be there, I can guarantee that. And you can see now as we move on later on into the race now, into lap 7, and you can see the gap is about 4 seconds now. We have absolutely amazing pace on the Ultra Soft tyres, and I think that's partly to do with how I practice. Like when I practice I always do qualifying and then the first stint, and then I do about a quarter of the second stint, so we're always used to the softer compound more than we are to the harder compound, so the pace is looking really good at this stage in the race. But I wasn't really too confident in the soft tyres, so I wasn't feeling like I got this win in the bag yet at this stage. I still feel anything can happen. You can see a couple of cars have come into the pits here. I think Synthetic pitted, and yeah, we're going to have to watch out for the undercut, which is pretty powerful around this track as well. So you can see now moving on to later on here on lap 8, we're going to be pitting at the end of this lap for the soft tyres. At this stage the Ultra Softs are on about 55% like tyre wear, I think mainly on the rears, that's where you feel it the most around here. So heading around the final corner, hopefully we've not lost too much time to the guys who pitted on lap 7, but into the pits we go now. It's pretty easy to speed in this pit lane, so we're going pretty cautiously here because we don't want to humiliate ourselves in any way by getting a time penalty of 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. So going on to the soft tyres from lap 8 to lap 29, so 21 laps on the soft tyres, which is pretty easy to do around here, so we won't have to pit again. And yeah, as I said, my pace on the soft tyres isn't as good as my pace on the Ultra Soft tyres, so I assume Synthetic's probably closed in a bit on us as well, so it's still going to be tough from here to the end. But we're in provisional P1 out of the guys that pitted. The 9 in front are yet to pit, and some of them started on the soft tyres, like Overdue Kink, I think that's how you say that, who's in front of us. He started on the soft tyres as well as some of the others, and I think my teammate Curly's still going. And yeah, we're still going to be in P1, but Synthetic's pace, I did do some practice with him, and his pace on the soft tyres seemed closer to my pace than what it was in the Ultra Soft tyres. And I think some of the guys that started on the soft tyres, we're probably going to catch them up, and as you can see onto lap 13 we have caught up with the Toro Rosso in front, so Hopefully we can clear him as quick as possible, but it's going to be tough. This is quite a tough track to overtake, and we don't want to lose too much time. You can see the gap to synthetics about 2.8, and it was originally 3.2, but I've now started to lose time being stuck behind in the dirty air, so we've got to try and clear this guy as quickly as possible. So in the slipstream, heading towards the quick S's here, but we're never really going to make an overtake into this corner. You can see, looking to the inside as he brakes pretty early as well, so that could have gone wrong. We could have lost part of our front wing there if we braked a bit later than him, so, well, a bit later than we did. So you can see, looking to the inside once again, fourth gear through this corner, he's starting to slide around a bit. I think his tyres aren't exactly in the best condition, and ours are a lot fresher, so we've got to try and clear him as quickly as possible. Going down the inside here, making a bit of a 50-50 move. That was never really on, so that's kind of cost us a bit of time there. So in hindsight, I shouldn't really have gone for that, and it might have given me a better run onto the straight now. And you can see we're not quite close enough to make a move into turn 1, so we set a 26.4, which is not a good time at all. We've lost about a second and a half on that lap compared to the pace that we'd usually be doing on these tyres. So we've got to try and get past him here into turn 3 in the slipstream, pulling to the outside line and going right round the outside, because we actually get hit there from him. We actually get pushed a bit off the track there, and that's cost us probably about another 2 seconds. And I'd say that's just a racing incident. I was trying to go for a bit of a ambitious move, so I'm not blaming him for anything there. And yeah, we've lost a lot of time, and now the gap is 8 tenths compared to 2.8 this time on the last lap, so we've lost 2 seconds in a lap. So we've really got to try and clear Ovedy Kink as quickly as possible, and hopefully he might be able to hold up Synthetic as well. And I think Synthetic's got Deagle Killer behind him as well, so we are in quite a bit of danger here. We've got to really try and get past him as quickly as possible, so hopefully we can set up a move into the next corner. Going into rich fuel mix now in the slipstream. It's going to be a bit of an ambitious move on the brakes here, into 4th gear, up the inside, Daniel Ricciardo-esque, and we are hopefully going to make that stick, going side by side here. 5th gear, and we're going to force him slightly wide. That wasn't intentional, I just kind of understood there. And you can see Synthetic and Deagle Killer have both got through, and that's not what I wanted. So we have come out of that battle from before having a 3-second gap to now having about a gap of 8 tenths. So the remaining 14 laps from here, well 15 laps, are going to be very tense now. It's going to be really difficult to shake off Synthetic. Obviously he's going to have the effect of the dirty air, and I think the wings that he was running were a lot higher than mine, so he's definitely going to struggle to get through. But with the DRS that he's going to have in the slipstream, it's definitely going to be tough to shake him off from here. So lap 15 out of 29, now moving on to the start of lap 18 now, and you can see the gap is 7 tenths, and it hasn't really changed much from here. As you can see, ever so slightly cutting turn 1, and that was my first warning of the race there, so we've got to be careful of that as we are trying to push as hard as possible, trying to extend that gap to Synthetic and try and make our life a bit more easier in the last 12 laps or so. So you can see, heading through the first sector, still in standard mix, just kind of trying to like save my fuel whilst trying to be quick. And you can see the times we're setting through the first sector aren't too bad at all, but the gap is still 7 tenths there, as you would have seen. So now heading towards the end of lap 19, and Synthetic does look quite a bit closer this lap. As we now cross the line, it sets a 25.3, but the gap is now 3 tenths. So Synthetic's had an absolutely brilliant lap. I think he was probably in the 24s that lap. So now he's in the slipstream. Now he's got a DRS, heading towards turn number 3 here, braking at the 100 meter board, sorry, going pretty defensive there. And we didn't really need to defend because he was never really close enough, but I just wanted to be safe there. And yeah, we're going to have to be very wary from here to the end of these two behind. I think Deagle Killer, he's a massive surprise for me. I've never raced him before, and I didn't really expect him to be in the podium fight in his first race, so fair play to him. But Synthetic, obviously my main rival last year for the championship, so we know what he's like. We know he's a fair, clean racer, and he's definitely very quick. I don't think his qualifying pace is that great, but his race pace, he's always there, and he always is strong. It's kind of like what I used to be like in qualifying. I was never really there in qualifying, but recently I've managed to pick up the pace in qualifying. As you can see, we've got another warning there, doing exactly the same thing through turn 1, so getting our second warning of the race, and that means in the remaining 8 laps we're definitely going to have to be ultra cautious to not get that third warning and get that 3-second time penalty, so we've got to be very careful. But I did hear at some stage in the race that synthetic had a time penalty from the engineers, so yeah, like I was in quite a good position even if we did get a penalty, because I'd have track position, but I didn't know whether Deagle had a penalty or not. But the importance of track position around here is massive because of the dirty air and just how hard it is to overtake around here. And I had that in one of my PSGL races as well, behind Game of the Best. Really did struggle to get through, and he managed to win the race just because of track position really compared to raw speed. And you can see now, crossing the line onto lap 25, the pace is still there. We're still setting 25.3s, which is definitely good pace on these tyres, and synthetic is now still 4 tenths behind, but we've both managed to drop Deagle Killer and I think Curly, my teammates, in P4, so hopefully he can get up on the podium, and that would be a really good result for my team in this race. So that will put us into the lead of Constructors' Championship if he can get onto the podium, and even if he doesn't, then we're still going to be in the lead of the Constructors. And we do have a strong team this year at Mercedes, and you can see the gap is still 3 tenths, and it's been pretty much 13-14 laps now of synthetic being within half a second of me. And you can see, moving on to the penultimate lap, we're going to stay on board from here to the end. Once again, not really going defensive into turn 3 because I didn't really need to, and it just seemed like his straight line speed was never really good enough to mount a challenge towards me. And yeah, at this stage I felt pretty comfortable. I knew the only way he's only really going to get through is if I'm making a mistake. I'm not pushing overly hard either, so yeah, we're just going to be as cautious as we can. You can see my tyre wear's on 55% pretty much, which is not too bad on soft tyres, and I wasn't really feeling the effect of the tyre wear that much, to be honest. And yeah, as I said already, it should be pretty straightforward from here unless we make a mistake. But I've been in this position before of having synthetic and Simo, I think, behind me at Suzuka battling for P2, and that was a sort of similar situation of about 15 laps of just having those two within half a second of, well, having the guy behind within half a second of me, and then having the car behind him quite close. So yeah, I've been in this position before, I know what it's like, and I think we're handling it pretty well here. But also I was keeping in my mind that it's a long season, so even if I do come P2 here today, it's not the end of the world. But in these races where I can practice, it's definitely best to make the most of it, and I've got good pace around here, so I have to make the most of it and try and get those 25 points. So down the straight towards turn 3, once again synthetic, that was probably his last overtaking chance there, so it looks like we have got this in the bag unless we make a mistake. So I'm just going to talk you through the final lap, and yeah, it looks pretty comfortable for us here. So braking just in between the 50 and 100 metre board there. He's now 5 tenths behind, so that's the furthest he's been behind in about 10 laps now. So maybe he has finally succumbed, and hopefully he's just going to set up for P2 there, and we are hopefully going to take the win in the first race of the season, which will be an absolutely brilliant start to the season. And I felt like my pace around here has been really, really good, which I've never really had great pace around here in season 14 and 13 in F2 as well. So never had great pace, but we have driven as best as we can today. And you can see synthetic's actually getting quite a bit closer here in these final few corners, and we're just going to run a defensive line into the hairpin. He goes for a slight move around the outside, but that's never really on, and we are going to take victory here around the final corner. We're going to pull to the right hand side of the circuit, and we're going to take the win here in AOR season 15, round number 1 for the Australian Grand Prix. What a race, what a win, and that's a great way to start the season, and hopefully we can continue like that. And yeah, I was really, really happy to just start off how I finished last season in my defence for the championship, and yeah, also proving that, well, I'm representing my esports team Veloce, and there's quite a few other esports teams in AOR PS4 this season, so I really want to just do the best I can for them really. And yeah, great start to the season. Next track is China next week, so that's a decent track for me. I won there last season, getting my first ever F1 victory, so hopefully we can have more of the same thing. So thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you are new for weekly AOR F1 highlights on the PS4 side of things. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers.